And so now you've got this neurology that's beginning to form around a certain particular task, focus, subject. And so you want to put time in, you want to do your 15-minute practice of being aware that you're aware, that you're becoming more aware. And so what's a really good way to install this, right? Where do you put it? Where do you sort of grow the root for this? And I was watching a short film on how to train, and the guy was saying, you don't train hard like in America. It's all about training hard and getting it done. And he said, but the Russians have a different approach. They train for long periods of time, and they're playful about it. And so obviously using play is a really good idea. If you're just playing with something, not expecting anything to happen, you're not expecting a particular outcome, you're not expecting to get any progress or any results, you're just sort of putting your focus and your awareness on a particular thing. And one of the best ways to do that, if we're going to use a particular target to practice our awareness, is to start creating art, right? So one of the things I love to do is martial arts. So I practice at the moment jiu-jitsu. That's my style of choice right now, and probably will be for a while. But I know people love painting. I know people love to make music. I know people love making videos. I know people love taking photographs. I know people like doing jigsaw puzzles or Lego or whatever it is. If you start making clay, for example, shapes out of clay, if you start putting your attention into creating something while focusing and becoming aware of the things you're doing, especially if it's something that you can do without too much focus or effort, you give the body and mind a task, like a candle focus, like a painting, like a sculpture, whatever it is that you choose. It doesn't even matter what the task is, it's just something that you can focus your conscious mind towards. And perhaps, like with my friend at jiu-jitsu, watching jiu-jitsu videos and getting one of the coaches to just talk about things, not even necessarily watching it to watch it and focus on it, but just having it in the background, like here. I've got a couple of screens here on my computer, and on one side you have it playing, another side you've got something else going over here, maybe you're checking email, and it's just in the background. And you don't even need to be focused on it. You just need to be aware that it's there and let it play. And whatever you take in this time around, you take in. Whatever doesn't go in, doesn't go in. But every so often, you'll start to catch something, and you'll start to recognize something, and something will make sense. And slowly you'll become aware of those things that you're becoming aware of, and that will start to build the neurology in the mind and start to strengthen it. And so we can do this like another way of, another target, a useful target, is playing an instrument or learning a language. And you don't have to sit down and learn the language. You just go on YouTube. Let's just do this. Learn Italian for beginners. Oh, let's just go learn Italian. First video.
Want more Italian videos like this? Subscribe to our channel.
And you just start playing it, right? But instead of being it like obvious, you can turn it right down. And don't even pay attention to it. You're just aware, you're just placing your awareness that it's there. And while that's going on, you can play some music. In the background. And while that's happening,
Ciao, sono Consuelo, piacere di conoscerti. Hi, I'm Consuelo, nice to meet you. Ciao, sono Consuelo, piacere di conoscerti. So, you just need to say, ciao, sono, have your name, and then piacere di conoscerti. Ciao,
window go.
sono Consuelo, piacere di conoscerti. And now, let's say the same sentence during a formal situation.
Nice dart pass when I'm having a hard time opening. I like to either control the biceps,
Buongiorno, sono
armpits.
Consuelo
If
Innocenti,
they have a knee on you, you can use
piacere
those
di
armpits.
And
conoscerti.
put on another video.
Pretty safe here as far as being attacked because my
Sono
has a lot of attacks in my
Consuelo
neck or my arms.
Innocenti,
Visualize
piacere
it. So something I like to do is I'm gonna get up on my toes.
change from the previous introduction. Let's take a look at this. Ciao,
Okay. And so you can have all of this going on at once. Just sort of just sit back and chill. Your eyes are focused on it, but just relax. You're not intently watching it. Maybe you're checking email at the same time. Or you might be just flexing a muscle. It's nothing too strenuous. In fact, you don't want to be straining at all. You don't want to put any energy into straining. You just want to be chilled out. Almost like, you're about to doze off. But you're resting your awareness on things. You're paying attention to it. And you're just leaning into it, just spending time in there. And you're allowing the brain, the neurology to start to form. Okay? And you can't put a time limit like how long is this going to take me? Is it going to take me 3 weeks? Is it going to take me a month to get my neurology built up? It's like, no, you don't even worry about that. Don't forget about all that, because even though when you're planting crops, for example, and you're waiting for the fruit and the harvest, that it's logically it's a season, but when you see the fruit on the tree and it's you're like, when's it going to be ready? When can I eat it? And you can't predict that, because it's ready when it's ready. All right, and you don't want to fuck it up before it's ready and pick it, because then it's a waste. And you don't want to wait too long, because then it starts to get stagnant, right? But there's that sweet spot, and your body, your mind will tell you when it's ready. Okay? Same thing when you're manifesting things in the field. And although we can use the example of a season, like in farming, some projects, some manifestations, some learnings can take a lot longer. I know for me personally that it takes a good, if I'm really focused, getting everything built up and getting life on track and getting it all pointing towards, getting all the neurology going towards that one task, average about 6 years for me, give or take, to get to a level of competency, which I could say, well, I've got a good handle on this now. I'm pretty happy with my level. Some would call this advanced or at a mastery level, and from here I can go on. Other subjects are a lot more complex. They take a lot more time. Okay, but just basically on average to get to a level where I'm personally happy with myself, regardless of the ranking system or what anyone else's opinion is. About 6 years, I feel like I'm in a pretty good place for myself for things that are quite deep and advanced. When it came to things like finance, I'm still going, obviously, but we're looking in the better part of a 10-year cycle for that. From going from broke and not being able to pay rent and barely feeding myself to living where you want to live, in the house you want to live in, driving the car you want to live in, earning the kind of, having the cash flow and the kind of income that you feel is a good, nice, comfortable base, right? And so focusing on art is a great thing, because while you're building all the structures of the mind and while you're getting your awareness strong and expanded and growing and getting depth in all that into a level of competency, you're also developing a skill. And art is a great skill because it's fun, it's something you enjoy, it's not considered work. Hopefully your art is not your job, but if you needed to, eventually you could give up your job and turn your art into some kind of income stream. So I think that's of value to you as well. So for example, I know people right now who are probably heading in the fitness and health and martial arts stream who are, building themselves into a lifestyle where they could potentially earn an income out of, doing yoga or jiu-jitsu, for example. It's not something I want to do, not something I necessarily need to do. But other people have chosen things like, DJing, producing music, photography, all sorts of things. And what's really interesting in this time and space, 2021, going into this new age of Aquarius, for example, and all the technological innovations that are coming in the next year or less, is that the world is becoming more and more digital. The value or perceived value of things is, especially in the digital realm, is becoming more and more obvious. That's definitely something that's touching on the meta level concept that I'm talking about. Here we had, in the Industrial Revolution, you need to create a massive company and have 100 employees or something to be able to really compete on a world stage. Now kids are getting out of high school, then they're still in high school, and they're creating businesses that turnover, I don't know how much profit they make, but turnover upwards of $100,000 to $1 million+ a year. And it's all because of these digital meta frameworks that anyone can start to access and draw in all these particular mechanisms, let's say, stack them all together, create these programs and codes, these networks, and then pump out, products and services. And part of that process is because it's very creative. Once the framework is up, then it's all about being creative and connecting with the people that are going to want your product and service. Then it comes down to what are your skills artistically. How creative can you become now that you've got a handle on the tools? How creative can you be? And so this isn't a talk about creating online businesses through your art form, although that's something you can definitely make tangible. What I'm going towards is that when you start to understand these concepts and you can apply them to certain aspects of your life, the only limitation is your awareness and your skill level and how creative you can be. Because when you start to tap into these parts of the mind, you can start to stack all these neurons together into a network. You can start to focus on a particular thought pattern, thought form, and that's the precursor to the physical. So whatever you think and feel, you're eventually going to create an experience in the physical realm. Then you start to ask, well, if I can create anything, like how far can I take this? Because in the beginning, when you start to become aware of all these patterns that have kept you being who you are, regardless of whether that's good or bad, or you like it or you don't like it, when you see, even when you like everything and you're like, this is great, I love who I am and I've got a great life, and you start to see that all the awareness of the programs and the patterns and the neurology that you have in your mindset have created who you are and what you have, you inevitably see that there's more to that, there's more to you, and there's more to the experience you could be having, even though you might not be fully aware of what that could possibly be. And so the common thing is people go, well, I could use more money, and I could use more health, and I could use better relationships and friends, and a better career path and all that sort of stuff. And so then it's very easy, because you're going, this is what I don't want, this is what I'd rather have, right? But it's still based, this choices is still based on the mind that you're in, right? So when you start to realize, really understand what I'm talking about, and grasp the concept of this, become aware of your awareness, and aware that there's more to be aware of that you're not aware of, then the question is, how creative can I get with this? Like, what, with the current technology, what, if all that automatically, without much awareness and direction, has gotten me to all this, then where could I potentially take it? And so you can look at examples of what other people have created, obviously, and this is where having mentors and idols and goals come in. But what if you're trying to do something that's beyond all that, right? Or not even beyond in terms of more or greater, but something that's not been done before, something that there's no awareness on yet, And so before you can get to that, you need to have awareness of what is. You need to know where you are right now. You need to be really honest about that. And sometimes it's not going to be comfortable, but it's like, on GPS, if your goal is to get to, say, financial freedom or perfect health or great relationships and amazing social circle and a fulfilling vocation, for example, These are, or traveled all over the world in, glamping or 5-star or backpacking, and whatever your preference is, whatever the vehicle and method you want to use to get there. These are just some elements to get you going, but what else is there? What is the real potential of being an observer and a creator? When you start to bring awareness to certain things, especially on things that are already here, and maximizing the potential of everything that's already here. Like, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's just, maybe it's a way of looking at things from a new perspective and hacking together, things that are already present and making them do things that they weren't maybe intentionally designed to do, but have the potential to do. When you combine 2 or 3 or more things and braid them into a nested loop, there's a lot of power in that. For example, if you could access all of your anger and your hate and your envy and your jealousy and your spite, and you could harness all that network and turn it into a network of unconditional love, gratitude, and joy and bliss, how would your life be different? How much of your neurology is going towards things that aren't really good for you? What percentage on the slide? All right. And if you could just move the slide all the way up to the positive, how would that be different? How much of your mind is tied up in things that aren't working for you, aren't serving you, but are working perfectly to get you all those things you don't want? What would happen if you slid it over all the way to the other end? Could you just dwell in that idea and just play with it, and maybe pick up a pencil or a paintbrush or a pen and put it to paper, or your stylus on your iPad, and start to sketch things out and start to create something with that new neurology, or that old neurology which has been tasked with new values? What could be possible then? I think that's a really good question. I think sometimes creating the questions are more important than the answers, because they give you certain propulsion systems. I know we've talked a lot about in details of what you can do to practice awareness, but now that you've got a bit of a framework, one of the best questions I heard about awareness is, can you become aware that you're aware? Can you become aware that you're aware? Can you become aware that you're awareness, that you're an awareness that's aware? Can you become aware that you're an awareness that's aware? When I hear that, the boundary containment on everything just explodes, and there's just infinite possibility in every direction. Now, some people get a bit freaked out, they go, I want abundance, give me abundance, yeah. And then you go, all right, can you become aware that you're an awareness that's aware? And they, what? Maybe it's a little too much abundance. Can we just have a boundary containment around that's comfortable, that I can work with? Okay. Candle focus. Candle focus. Artwork. Do some art, make some art. Candle focus. Meditation. Play. Physical training. Financial mastery. Musical instrument. learn a language. And while you're going down these tasks, can you become aware that you're aware? Something to ponder, something to contemplate. Enjoy that as much as you possibly can.